NASCAR returns to the streets of Chicago this weekend. We get you ready with our best bets and DFS tiers for the Grant Park 165. All this and more next on the Backroad.
It's a non-points race, but it is a short race. Checkered flag. That's all this race does.
What's going on, everybody? The boys are back in town here on a Wednesday night here on a holiday week. It's the Backroad. It's in between media's NASCAR betting fantasy NASCAR show. Elliot Hicks and Seth Woolcock here with you. We are going back street racing, Seth, back for a second year at Chicago. Hopefully a little less rain, a little less chaos, and hopefully some damn good bets.
Yeah, we're a day early. As a shout out to this great fucking nation, Elliot, that you can actually be employed to bet on NASCAR. So super thankful to be back here with you. We're still licking our wounds after last week's fiasco, but nonetheless, I like Chicago Street. I kind of like what the books gave us this week as well. I know I'm in the very, very silent minority there, but I'm excited to be here with you, man. Thanks for giving up Dollar Dogs Night at PNC for us.
Hey, that's all right. Plenty of ball games to catch, but there's only one Chicago street course. We're going to talk about that. We're going to break down Nashville, talk about some of the NASCAR news in the world, give you our prop bets, and break down our DFS tiers to round out the night. Thanks for joining us on Wednesday. Like Seth said, really appreciate you guys going off schedule with us. And it's going to be a fun one. We've been handicapping really well, Seth. We've been talking about it. Just getting bit at the last minute with some of this late race and, mid-race chaos, racing on rain tires and a million fucking overtimes out in Nashville.
Really, since the calendar turned over to June, I feel like we've been on a heater. We've been seeing the field very, very well. It came to fruition at places like Sonoma, like Iowa. If the rain would have held up at New Hampshire, we would have both made out like bandits. Mm-hmm. And then last week, we'll chat about it, but just shit hits the fan. The biggest swing I've ever had in betting at all. But very, very thankful for everyone tailing along with us. And hopefully you guys are seeing, hey, these guys might be dumbasses along the way. They might like to get into some shit and, have some bush lights along the way, but we also do know our shit. So I'm super thankful for the IBT family riding with us. Kush was in here over 20 minutes early, ready to go, coming over from the NASCAR betting preview show, and Didi hanging out with us. And once again, dropping a huge super chat right off the bat. Thank you, Didi. We appreciate you very, very much over here at IBT. When they get betting legal over in California, hopefully you can tell us a little bit as well. But Elliot, what do you say, man? Should we get the engine started and at least talk a little bit about what was the unfortunate circumstances of last week?
Yeah, man. All you can do is get back on the horse, but let's take a look back real quick first in the rear view in the Music City. So I know we like to also talk some truck and Xfinity. You got to start with that Cup race. We had it down pat with 2 to go. The 3 cars that we broke down as the 3 that were most likely to win the race, running 1, 2, 3. Austin Cindric gets in a mess in the back, spins out. We have the most overtimes in Cup Series history, if not, all top 3 series history. And Joey Logano somehow saves 110 laps worth of fuel and gets the victory.
I mean, talk about a guy backing into a win. I don't even know if he had a top 12, a top 15 car. He was kind of silent most of the day, made his way up on a pit stop strategy, 2-call tire call out of Penske. You kind of come to expect that nowadays. But, oh my God, Elliot, I could absolutely not believe what we were seeing. I caught some heat on Twitter saying that I didn't like this race. Like, regardless of whether my bets hit or not, it was kind of tough to watch the first 2 stages. It felt like a fucking parade out there. Just cars going in a straight line. And then finally, I felt like stage 3, we really saw some strategy play into things. We saw some long runs shake out, and Denny Hamlin was going to walk away with it. We are going to be very, very happy with how this race played out, and it didn't come to fruition, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, even if we didn't have the bunch of overtimes that made things more exciting or more annoying, depending on what half you're on, it still got to be an exciting battle at the end. Hamlin versus Chastain. Could Ross hold him off?
Dude, Ross was
Could he get
throwing
up there?
blocks like a mother effer. He
Yeah.
did not like that is the Ross Chastain that we have come to know and love is I don't give an F. I'm going to do what I can do to win this race. And, shout out to Hamlin, man, for keeping us cool. And I don't care what you say about Denny Hamlin, man. He on these intermediates and on these short tracks, he's one of the best out there. And it was on display with how he was able to use up Ross a little bit and get around him.
Yeah, and that would have been a great ending, but unfortunately, chaos strikes. We end up with 5 overtimes, and we have to put Joey Logano at the very top of the fuel savers in the series list because I don't know how that happened. Even Chase Briscoe had a few more laps of fuel, and he runs out before Logano, and so did everybody else on that strategy. Chris Gabehart, Denny Hamlin's crew chief, sent out a tweet. I think it was Jeff Gluck had said, "Hey, how did Logano do this?" And Gabehart replies and said, "His car was slow, and that's how." And that was my hope. When we get to overtime number 4, my guy Bowman is lined up 6th. I'm like, this car has been dog shit all day.
Yeah.
Maybe he saved a lot of fuel back there in 20th. Come off a 2, he's clear for 3rd, and then he runs out. And I'm sure it was that stack up that caused that other caution with, I think, Josh Berry that crashed. But in the end of the day, Logano wins. We let Zane Smith come way too fucking close to winning one of these races. I tweeted out on Sunday that Zane Smith winning and making the playoffs would have been the equivalent of the 0-16 Detroit Lions making the playoffs in 2008. But good on him. Reddick was coming like a mother effer. He ends up 3rd and just a wild top 10 from there.
Yeah, and honestly, I will say at least I did shout out Zane Smith, played him in a couple DFS lineups, 5 for 5 in the Truck Series at Nashville, finishing in the top 5. Got really lucky on that one. Wish I would have bet him because I think he was like 26-1 or something crazy for a top 10. I know some people out there on the internet did very, very well with that. So yeah, absolutely crazy. 25 unit swing for me if Cindric doesn't spin there with 2 to go, Elliot. I had the Hamlin top Toyota, had an outright on him, Ross, and Kyle Larson. So whoever won, I was going to be happy with. I had the winning car number under 12.5. Thought I was going there. The Ross under 7.5. Man, I was just so upset with that one, man. Very I didn't watch any NASCAR content on Monday, which is saying something.
Yeah, that's one of those days you lose a bunch of bets in that way. You just got to step out for a minute. The only one I ended up winning was Hendrick over Gibbs that I took just on plus money. We were both looking good with that Ross under 7.5, and I was looking damn good with that Austin Dillon under 22.5. Tampa Timms was fading me. You were fading me. Everyone was fading me. He was like 15th before that caution. I was ready. Good. I jinxed myself again because I thought about the content before the bet. I was like, I got to go clip that and put it up just like I did at New Hampshire with the rain. And I was going to hit both of those top 10s. I just keep jinxing myself. So this week, maybe I'm going to put the bets before the content.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to you, man. Yeah, I think you at least had the nerve to throw out an Austin Dillon top 10. It looked good for
it wasn't even the top 10. I just had him under 22nd.
Yeah.
So that was even, you know, people did not like that, but I almost had it.
And honestly, just kind of a bummer of a race weekend. Honestly, I'm hoping we can get to the Nashville Fairgrounds eventually because the super speedway, it's just not for me out there. Like the truck race right off the rip. What do we have? Like 5 cautions in stage 1. A lot of bullshit happening. Missed out on Nick Sanchez. He went to that backup truck right away and battled his whole way back into the top 20 and wasn't able to beat Ty Majeski. We did have a perfect Xfinity race, at least for my card. I had Toyota to win, and then old Carson Quapple got the best of Sammy Smith there. Carson Quapple's been good to us, man. I can't wait to see this guy hopefully full-time next year in the Xfinity Series as well.
Yeah, if JRM's not too crowded, he definitely would fit in well, and that's even on a bigger track, which was our skepticism about Quapple. Still gets it done and still beats Sammy Smith.
Yeah. Spry Sheep in the chat saying, any reason you're recording on a Wednesday? Did I miss something? Yeah, it's 4th of July tomorrow, buddy. It's 4th of July. We thought we'd give Elliot the night off, and I think I might have some family over as well. Enjoy the holiday there.
Yeah,
so.
and it's not even just us. We honestly figured that you guys might have something better to do than listen to us on the 4th of July.
Well, our live ratings took it for the presidential debate last week, so I was like, okay, I'm not going up against the 4th of July and Uncle Sam and you know Colt Busch Light. I can't do it.
Yeah, but hey, thanks for joining us on a little after dark. If some of you came over from the NASCAR betting preview show, we appreciate it. But yeah, I think let's just go right into the horizon forecast for the Chicago Street Course. Or wait, We're going to talk some news first. This is new. I'm looking at it right on my show sheet, and I still missed it. My bad, everyone.
Yeah, come on, Elliot. Missed it right there in
Rookie
France.
mistake. I've had a little too much of this hard Mountain Dew in here, I guess.
We're talking Carson Hocevar first. Fine $50K, dock 25 driver points for wrecking Harrison Burton under caution. We've praised Carson Hocevar all season long for his consistency in the Cup Series, but this is kind of what we expected from him from the get-go, honestly. I'm surprised it took us, 17, 18 races to really see this, Elliot. Kind of just a dumb mistake. I think this will kind of teach him a little lesson, hit him in the pocketbook. Your thoughts on this? Because it wasn't like totally out of the blue for his character, but hopefully he learns, hey, I shouldn't be doing this in NASCAR's best series.
Yeah, and I think he really had kept himself in check this year, because there have really been none of those moments where last year in the Truck Series, 3, 4, 5 times, we're like, what the fuck is this kid doing? Ends up getting a Cup ride on his talent. This is the first instance where it's like, what the hell, man? But I think they played it right. A lot of people were like, well, why wasn't he penalized in race? They had just held Lane Riggs in the Truck Series for 2 laps for something that wasn't that bad. Everyone was saying, oh, well, he right hooked him. That's had suspensions before. No, this wasn't at speed. It was slow under caution. This is the right choice here. Give him a fine that he'll recognize, dock him the driver points, which really knocks him behind in the Rookie of the Year race, especially with how good Josh Berry has been running. So I feel like he's learned his lesson. And honestly, if you're going to knock a guy out, it may as well be a guy that's about to be out of the series, right?
Yeah, it looks like that's the case after Josh Berry signs with Wood Brothers Racing this week. And man, congrats to Josh Berry. And I think you said it best when I think I responded to you after you DM'd me this news. I think he deserves a little bit better. And he said, well, let's remember, this is actually a pretty good team at one point. Like Matty D had taken it to the playoffs multiple times, was competing for wins multiple times as well. So I like Josh Berry here. I'll like it a lot better if Rodney Childers can join him here in a couple of weeks as well. But your thoughts on JB heading to Wood Brothers Racing, that number 21 car, Elliot?
Yeah, I do want to echo that point again, that just because Harrison Burton has run so poorly doesn't mean this is a bad team. You've got the Penske support. They've run well with DiBenedetto, who is not, a talented driver, maybe not a top 17 driver in Cup. He had that car flirting in that stage of the points. Ryan Blaney got wins in this car. Paul Menard did all right in this car. Paul Menard, another driver who unspectacular, but he'll always have the Brickyard at least. But yeah, Barry, this is going to be a good setup for him. If he can bring Childers, great. It just really depends if he wants to be in the Penske door or if Penske wants him in their doors, because they handle that team. They staff it. They have the crew chief. I think it's Jeremy Bolins, who's on the 21 car with Burton this year. Or if it's not him, then one of the familiar names from that Penske crew chief stable. And really, I think Rodney Childers holds all the cards because he can go anywhere that he wants. I feel like even a Hendrick or a Gibbs would open the pocketbook and make room for him to be a crew chief or a competition director or something of that ilk if he doesn't feel like being on the pit box. He's a big-time free agent that's going to be out there. I know he'd probably like to work with Barry. I know Barry would like to work with him. Sometimes you just can't make these perfect marriages happen because of that's just what happens in the sport.
Yeah, let's hope so, man, because there have been multiple times this season where we've both, texted each other, hey, is Josh Berry about to pull this one out? 4 top 10s, 2 top 5s. And once again, last week at Nashville, didn't have a great race per se, but came out with top 4 speed in qualifying, qualified himself up there towards the front row. So yeah, I really like what Josh Berry has done this season. He's a very talented driver. Dale Earnhardt Jr. knew that from the get-go. Thankful for him for giving us Josh Berry here, man. But what would you say the over-under should be for Berry's win total next year? Probably 1, 0.5 would be the line. Would you take the over, you think?
I would take the over. I think that a competitive team like this, Stewart Haas has not been, obviously they have not been their best, and he's still come fairly close. I do think it's 0.5. Even if you see Berry win this year, I still don't want to bet him for multiple wins next season.
Yeah, 1 though, I would definitely take. I would even maybe swallow a little bit of a juice to get it there. So congrats to Josh.
There's so many tracks that he can win at. He can win at New Hampshire. He can win on the, Martinsville. He can come close.
Richmond.
I think Richmond in a better car, he'll come a lot closer.
Yeah, 100% agreed. Congrats to Josh Berry and the Wood Brother Racing team to, just saying, hey, we deserve better than what we're getting out of Harrison Burton. What happens to HB now? You think it's back to the Xfinity somewhere? You think he could get a top ride down there?
I think that he's best served going back to Xfinity, and I do think he could get a decent ride. He's got some money with him. We're assuming that Dex Imaging will stay with him and not stay with that 21 team as they have before. It depends on how things shake out. I could even see a seat for him at Haas Factory team if you have Custer bump up to Cup or Herbst go somewhere else, or if they decide to expand there for some reason. He'd keep him in the Ford camp if they like him. He's got a little bit of money to bring along with him. That could be a seat that could be open for him, but that's all speculation. Regardless, he's best served going back down there, winning some more races, pulling a John Hunter Nemechek really, even though he's coming out by force and not by choice. Go down there, restore your confidence, show people you still got something behind the wheel, and go back to Cup if you get the opportunity in a few years.
Agreed. And speaking of the Xfinity series here, Elliot, AM Racing is removing Hailie Deegan this week in favor of Joey Logano. This was a bit of a surprise, not from a performance standpoint, because her average finish this season is 26.8, only 3 top 20s in 17 races this season. Hasn't even finished on the lead lap since Talladega, which was months ago at this point, man. So it's been a struggle for Hailie Deegan, but she does have a multi-year deal with AM Racing, so a bit confusing there. And just kind of a weird time to put Joey Logano in the car to get feedback, as they're saying, from a PR perspective, because are they really going to get a ton of feedback at Chicago Street? It's kind of, you almost want to see him on an oval. Will Penske prep this car? Like, I'm not totally sure what's going to happen here. Is Joey Logano really going to go run a back marker like this? I don't know what to make of this. Your thoughts? Is Deegan done? A lot of speculation out there on the internet right now.
Yeah, this is a weird move. There's a lot of different things you can say about it. For Deegan, she's more managed by Ford than she is anything else. She was in the Thor Sport trucks, I think, last year. Ends up getting the Xfinity ride. She's got the funding behind her. The performance is not there. But conversely, you can say that AM Racing is kind of a dog shit team. They're not as if they're a front runner, like Thor Sport being a championship winning organization in trucks.
Right.
And Deegan not running well there is one thing. That speaks more on driver talent. At a team like AM Racing, maybe it's a case of inexperienced driver who's maybe not that talented in stock cars, in an inexperienced up-and-coming team that's maybe not doing so well. Getting a guy like Logano in, and we've seen him do this before. He won Bristol Dirt, I believe, in a Thor Sport truck. So Penske has given him the leeway to kind of jump around. As long as you're in a Ford, you can kind of do what you want. I would imagine it'd be a multi-week thing. I don't know if Logano is going to run all the races or if they're going to go with other experienced drivers, but I think that's part of it. I think that because Deegan is kind of managed by Ford, AM would enjoy the money, but if they're going to pluck her somewhere else anyway, you want to make sure you have good cars. And getting a guy like Logano in there, the Chicago Street Course obviously is its own animal. Even Pocono the following week is its own animal. If you can get an experienced driver in here, 3, 4, 5 races, figure out what you got going on, you can be more successful in the future, whether it's Deegan driving your cars or not.
If you had to say right now, do you think Deegan is still the AM Racing driver of this car next season? Do you think she's still in it by the time Daytona rolls around?
It's tough because you never know if Ford and her partners are going to pull the plug, because clearly she hasn't gotten the win yet. Barely gotten in the top 10, I think, whether it be multiple years in trucks or in Xfinity. Like you said, only 3 top 20s, hasn't been on the lead lap in months. Eventually, the performance has got to be some sort of reflector of, hey, Hailie, maybe you can't hack it in this series. And I love that they're trying to get a woman driver, because there's so many good candidates in there. Let's keep pushing it.
Yes.
It's just, with Danica Patrick, she had a few good runs. Stock cars maybe just weren't her thing. NASCAR wasn't her thing. She didn't end up all that great. Maybe it's just the case for Hailie Deegan too.
I would be excited to maybe see her go back to trucks. I think she was a little more successful there, and just like we've seen this girl, man. She's a talented gal. Like, she really is. We've seen her do a lot of different racing series, whether that's on dirt or in a stock car. And I think she is talented. I just think she needs to get in the right situation. So hopefully, it plays out for the best for both AM Racing and Hailie Deegan, because talented chick, man. We need more women drivers in NASCAR. So hopefully, we're rooting for her, man. And hopefully Joey Logano can get to the bottom of things this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. And there's more coming up the ladder is the great thing. I tend to watch the Chili Bowl in January, being so racing starved. And there's so many great female drivers there that maybe they'll be able to take the leap into NASCAR if they so choose.
Fuck yeah. Let's go, baby. Let's go. All right, Elliot, what do you say, man? Should we go ahead and jump into some Chicago Street?
Yeah, let's look at the horizon forecast for real this time.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
The number one thing I can ask for this year at Chicago is no rain, because it totally fucked the Xfinity race and really made the Cup race really chaotic. And that really played in, this is such a unique track, maybe the most unique track in NASCAR history, being the only street course they've ever run. Not only is it hard to pull data because of that, but it's hard to pull data from this race because it was run in a mix of wet conditions and SVG just went out there and spanked them.
Yeah, it really was, and I will say that, like, you said that earlier to me, and I really had to go back and rethink, and I rewatched the race from last year, both of them, and the Xfinity race, like, we didn't see a lot of passing in it, specifically because it was really rain short, 25 laps is all we got there on Saturday, and then
Mhm.
Sunday comes around. Not only is it in wet conditions, no one had been there before, but this race did also get shortened because of daylight.
That's right. I forgot
That
about that.
that being said, I think there's still a lot of takeaways from it. I really do. I think if you go back, you watch the tape, you look at the numbers, and I think there's value to be found out there. And listen, man, this is a fun one because it is that 12 turn 2.1 mile street course, and there aren't a lot of comps to it. Like we can throw out the road courses, the secondary comps like Sonoma, the Glen, Coda, Roval, but there's still a lot of question marks about it too. And like, how does it all translate? But I think the cream is still going to rise to the top this weekend. Your thoughts, like, are you weighing the overall road courses more than what we saw last week at the street course, or are you full sending on what we saw last year in Chicago, despite the FE conditions?
Well, let me compare it to this. Last week when we were talking about Nashville, there were, the cookie cutter mile and a half comps, the Dover comps, but Nashville's kind of its own animal. This, you got the road courses, but the Chicago street course is its own animal, as you can see there on the screen. 12 turns, a nice little loop and the hairpin there. I did weigh the general road course data in the next gen more than I did those other tracks, just because I feel like last year's weather shortened and rain affected race, you can take comps from it. But now that you get that all that out of the way, we're going to be racing in the dry. Hopefully, most of these guys have now taken a run or two around this place. They're hopefully going to get practice and qualifying and all that. It'll make things different on Sunday and probably more like what we're seeing from these comp tracks, even though the track itself is much different layout wise.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. I would say I was a little more heavier on Chicago just because it is a different beast. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
was the one thing I think now I circled last year in my notes when we were racing is like, wow, this is different. It looks different. It feels different. I remember a quote from Ross Chastain last year where Ross said, there wasn't one corner where I felt comfortable. And from a guy like Ross who's willing to, fly it around, throw his nut sack on the table occasionally time or two.
A Cup
Like,
Series road course winner too at that.
yeah, Cup Series road course winner. So that is why, like, I did weigh Chicago heavier than the comp tracks, but I am still looking at the comp, specifically this season's. Like, I'm not really weighing the Glen or the Roval from last season, more Sonoma and Coda, because we've seen the guys that were necessarily always fast on road courses last year tend to be the same guys, but not always. Like, we've definitely seen some new names surface to the top of that food chain there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We've been able to take some data from these next gen cars, but like you said, this is really its own different beast.
And how about this course, man? It is a great looking course. It's super cool that it's right on the lake, like so cinematic. They're gonna have a concert stage there. You can kind of see up in the right hand corner as well. And if you were looking and breaking down this track, like, is there one area that you think could be super problematic? Because to me, it's just like turn one, going into turn one, a little bit blind. We heard Denny Hamlin talk about it on his podcast earlier this week, Elliot, that, hey, he was going to nurse it a little bit while other people like Tyler Reddick were just going to full send it into turn one. So I think that could create some stack ups. And if you even remember, we had that one caution last year where it was like 20 guys that just no one could move.
Yeah, very narrow track, not a lot of room to move here. And like I said, that's the benefit of hopefully getting some practice and qualifying, which last year I don't think we got as much of because of the rain shortened weekend, or at least it felt that way. It's just its own beast, man. It's a new thing in the Cup Series. It'll be cool that this hopefully will be continued success, and we can try it some other places. And hopefully this year it's more of an event too. That concert stage you mentioned, the weather, they had to cancel basically everything on Sunday. I heard Jeff Gluck and Bianchi talking about going to a Chainsmokers concert they have scheduled there this year. That's the really cool thing, is hopefully for the fans that go, it's an event, whether you're a NASCAR fan or not. Hopefully a good weekend out there.
Yeah, and honestly, like, we need a little more respect for the chain smokers out there on the internet right now. No fucking love to them. I mean, holy shit, they got a couple bangers.
They're not exactly the NASCAR demographic. I get it.
For sure. But everyone likes a little closer. Come on, that was a hit our freshman year of college, bud. Let's not forget about that. We got Phil in the chat saying good luck this weekend, boys. Phil, we appreciate you as always on the NASCAR betting preview show right before this show started tonight, and Full Tank with Phil also out there on audio platforms this week. So make sure you guys are checking out Phil. Spry Sheep saying looks like a dog with a really skinny neck. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but it kind of does, honestly.
That's pretty great. Almost like that. The kind of reminds me of that robot dog from Jimmy Neutron. I think his name was Goddard. Without the antennas and stuff.
Wyatt in the chat saying Boris said gonna put a whooping on the field at Chicago. LOL. Is Boris in the field again this week?
No, the Hendrick 17 is, and it's Kyle Larson. But I do think Boris said's time is cooked, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I trust me. If anyone was high on Boris heading to Sonoma this year, it was me, dude. It was fucking me. Looking at the schedule for this week, though, Elliot, Cup practice and qualifying 12:30 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday. Xfinity race is going to be 3:30, the Loop 110, and then Sunday the Cup race 4:30 p.m. Eastern time, the Grant Park 165, lap 20, lap 45, lap 75. And reminder, I will not be watching this race live. I'll be coming back from the Scott Fish Bowl live draft in DC. So Elliot, Bob, Charles, everyone in the chat, don't be texting me spoilers here this weekend. I don't want to hear them, man.
Yeah, I've learned better now. I always will, whenever I want to text you something, like if I know you're doing something, like now I won't bother. If I'm not sure, I got to text, hey man, you live? You watching this? I do my best not to spoil, but I still don't know how you do it.
Let's look at a couple trends here as well, Elliot. Qualifying trends, 3 Toyotas made up the first 2 rows last year. That's important to me. I am a bit higher on the Toyotas than I have been in past weeks coming in. And looking at some race trends, Justin Haley's runner-up finish was the only of his Cup Series career last year. So if you're betting some like Justin Haley top 3s or something crazy, maybe rethink that a little bit. And then Toyotas led 58% of the laps last year. Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, Ty Gibbs. So are you high on Toyotas? You like Yoders this week?
I like the Toyotas. They led a lot of laps last year, but they didn't come away with a checkered flag. So
yeah, that's very, very true. And SVG won by 1.259 seconds. But keep in mind, we did have a ton of restarts kind of towards the end of that as well. So he didn't really get away as much as we thought he was going to. Mallory in the chat saying track is given capybara shape vibes. Did I pronounce that right?
I think so, yeah.
What is a capybara?
It's some sort of animal that's sort of doggish, I think, but a little smaller. I can't picture one in my head right now, but I will say the Chicago Street Course looks exactly like it.
Okay, well, spot on there from Mal. Here, let's get into the iFantasyRace.com asterisk mark driver of the week. We're going back to the well here this week. Tyler Reddick. This was a guy I found very hard to invest in because Tyler Reddick is a bit of a wild card, but he's been very consistent this season and was a clear-cut top 5 performer last year at Chicago Street, but ended up finishing 28th. He led 8 laps early in the race, finished stage 1 in second, finished stage 2 in third. But then on lap 57 while running fourth, went right into the tire barrier. And if you remember that one, Elliot, he couldn't get out. He was like stuck in it, couldn't get out, kind of doomed from there. But speed ranking wise, Reddick was 4th. And also, if you look segment by segment, 1st, 3rd, 2nd, and then 24th, if you're splitting up the race into 25% margins.
Yeah, this is why the asterisk mark is important, because I was looking at Reddick's numbers, realized he didn't finish that well this year. Honestly, kind of didn't remember what happened until I looked into it a little bit more. It was like, oh yeah, he was real good early in the race. That's why his speed ranking looks good. He's still one of the best on road courses in the next gen, but you're right. He's a little bit of a wild card, and that always makes him risky.
Nobody would be surprised if Tyler Reddick won this. I'll be honest. If I had to name 3 drivers who I think have the possibility of winning this race, Tyler Reddick is at the top of that list. Very much in play for me this week. I just don't know if I can really swallow it. It's always tough with him. And but he's been fast, man. He's been bad fast this year. Make sure you guys are checking out iFantasyRace.com as well. Ryan and his gang do a great job to help us out each and every single week. What do you say, Elliot? Should we jump on into the parking garage props?
Let's crack open the books.
Let's do it.
So you were saying earlier that the general consensus of the community is they don't love the books. I think we both kind of like the books though this week. There's some value here.
I feel like either we're on to something here or we're huge suckers taking the bait. But I really like the outright and the placement offering specifically for the Cup Series. We
Yep.
don't have the full allotment of Xfinity odds. We saw some top threes and top fives drop there earlier today, but just on Caesar. So we don't know what if ESPN's going to throw out anything or DraftKings in those markets. Didn't really love the Cup head-to-heads. I'll be honest. I have one I'm kind of buying on DraftKings that if they give that 30% boost on Sunday like they have been, I'll probably smack it around and give it a little rub and tug and go about it. But besides that, like I really did like the offerings though in the head or in the outright and the placement markets.
Yeah, and let's get on it with the Xfinity positional props here, books, because there's with the value in Xfinity, there's a lot of down book value in that positional prop market. Some that thankfully I was able to shout out because we got the numbers about 2 hours before the show. But earlier today when I was looking, I'm like, man, please put this out because I got some. There's going to be value here looking at the outright market.
And speaking of the outright market, let's go to the Cup outright market. Elliot, are you seeing anything right now that you're currently down on or that you're eyeing a number that you could get invested pre-practice qualifying or that you might wait out?
Well, so as you guys know or should know if you watch the show, I also put out a Between Bets article. Usually it comes out Fridays on the website. Normally I'll throw in a bet from there
Yes,
and separate bets. But I'm just going to give you a preview of my article this week because normally I pick 3 guys. And here are the 3 guys. They're the 3 outrights I like the most. You can't look away from Shane van Gisbergen. I liked his 50-1 last year a lot better. I let you and Chris from Flag Hunting talk me out of it. Not that I was going to bet it anyway, but I at least had the foresight. I at least had the foresight to put it on my sheet. I would not have bet it, but it was worth a shot. This year, unfortunately, that number is a hell of a lot shorter. He's plus 550, generally the favorite across most books. And I don't know who exactly is going to prep this car. Is it going to be basically like the Project 91, or is it going to be a Colleague car? Because that kind of affects it. He's in the Colleague 16 rather than a Trackhouse car, but with how Trackhouse is running lately, maybe that doesn't hurt him as much anyway. But so the Coda didn't go so well for him in the Cup Series. Did you have something you wanted to throw on?
No, I was just say stay on SVG because we're gonna be talking about SVGs this all night. So what else do you like about him this week? What else is calling your name other than his just total dominance here at Chicago Street last year?
Yeah, last year he was that good. I still think his driving style is going to adjust the best to the street course. Obviously, you can learn with the simulator. You can learn with having run the race last year, but it's just the mechanics I think are going to be best for SVG. Coda didn't go that well for him in Cup. It ran into some trouble. Didn't have the best car. He's been kicking ass in Xfinity though on these road courses. Should have won Coda. Won the other 2 races at Portland and Sonoma. And that paint scheme this week too. Those Wendy's saucy nugs are going to look real good with some confetti on them in Victory Lane.
Yeah, and dude, I've been hearing a lot of talk on the internet this week too about, hey, it was the chassis. It was all the chassis. And Elliot, I'm one to bring up the chassis sometimes. I've mentioned chassis on this program before. Bookmark it down. I don't know what fucking magic chassis we're talking about. This guy is a fucking weapon. He was a hired gun last year coming in here. Now this guy's had a year to adjust to not only America, but stock car racing in general and how wild can get out here. Man, I mean, this guy's put on performance, and I don't think we can look away from. I got him at 6-1. I was chatting with you earlier this week, and you most made me not bet it because I was like, God damn it. I was like, because you and then Derek Yoder, good friend of the show, was like, I think I'm fading at SVG in matchups this week. And I was like, okay, I need to go back to the tape. I need to go back to the numbers. I came out saying, hey, SVG was the best car, best driver last year, but it was not adversity free too. He was back in like 18th after those pit stops and charged through the field. He started 3rd in that race, so he had speed all weekend long. It wasn't a fluke. Looking at the advanced metrics as well, number 1 in total speed rankings and green flag speed, and that was in his first NASCAR start ever. That cannot get lost. That was his first start ever. Best average running position in that race, 4.9. Second most in fastest laps led, 15. 93.6% of his laps were inside the top 15. Number 1 in driver rating. And I'm getting 6-1. I thought I was going to pay plus 450 this week, honestly. I know like plus 550 is probably all you can get out there. Check ESPN Bet. They were 6-1 not long before we went live, but I've seen that number kind of go back and forth. So why not SVG, man? Why not take the shot?
Yeah, in terms of the chassis, I don't know that we've seen a NASCAR win be primarily the chassis since good old Amelia with Dale Jr. back in 14 and 15. Yeah, and then my other 2 outrights here, I like Tyler Reddick here at 7-1 on FanDuel is the best I saw him. Dare I say he's almost underrated on road courses now, because we don't talk about him being the king at road courses like we talked about Chase Elliott being the king of road courses before the advent of the next gen. His last 5 road course finishes 4th, 8th, 6th, 5th, and 8th, consistently running up front and consistently avoiding the chaos bug too in those last 5 road course races. Top 10s across the board.
It doesn't matter what way you cut it. 2024, since 2023, since the next gen era, Tyler Reddick has been the best road course racer. So I don't blame you one bit for backing him here, Elliot. I don't have him on my card right now, and I'm trying to find ways to get in on him because we know he's probably going to qualify towards the front. He usually does at road courses, and he did last year here at Chicago Street. So I don't blame you at all. I couldn't fit him in my card because I have so much fucking SV Jesus, but I do like the call. Alfred also saying he's on him. He has him to win once the wild Reddick. Charles in the chat saying Ty Gibbs 12-1 on Hard Rock for Xfinity race is almost double every other book. Just throwing that out there. If you do the weekend sweep, it's plus 22. Yeah, listen, man, I can't. I'm not betting Ty Gibbs in Xfinity anymore. He hasn't been that guy in Xfinity right now, Elliot.
Yeah, and the Xfinity field is, people are saying it is the most stacked Xfinity field in the history of the series.
Wow, really? I didn't. Wow,
you've got a bunch of Cup drivers. You got Ty, you've got JHN, SVG, AJ Allmendinger is a road course ace. Logano's down there. Larson is down there.
Yeah,
and then you've got a whole bunch of extra entries also with some road course ringers too. So it's just going to be absolutely stacked, and it's the same thing in terms of the Cup bet for stacking the weekend. I got to see him win first. I don't know that we're going to see another first win at the Chicago Street Course.
Who's your other outright? You have a Reddick. You have an SVG. Is this a long shot? Or are you going with another heavy favorite?
Going with a long shot, and we are bringing back McNasty at 14-1 over on Bet Rivers. We already know that this man will go balls to the wall. He will go all in to get that checkered flag, knowing it's his only route into the playoffs. Last road course out at Sonoma, he was second place. His last 3 road courses before that, he ran into trouble. Couple crashes and engine failure. So it's basically boom or bust. But in the 3 before that, he had that dominant win at the Indy road course and then a pair of 7th place finishes. If he's up there and you get a late restart, Michael McDowell is going to go for it. Checkers or wreckers for that 34.
Yeah, and honestly, let's not forget as well, besides SVG and a couple of these other randos who might pop in here, Michael McDowell has the most street racing experience of anyone in the Cup Series. He was doing this a while back, so that definitely comes into play. And also, I think coming into play is he was 3rd in the total speed rankings in this very race last year, 6th in green flag speed, 4th in driver rating, finished 7th last year. So I like him a lot. Like you said, he was 2nd at Sonoma. He was looking good at Coda before his steering went out there as well. Yeah. I have McNasty actually for 2 units on the top 10 line, minus 136 at Bet Rivers. And I don't know if the odds makers out there in Pittsburgh were drinking too many Iron Cities down at the ballpark this week, Elliot, but this line is like minus 240 at FanDuel and some other places. So to get it minus 136 at Bet Rivers really caught my eye. I don't need a top 5. I think you are baking some of that risk in, like you said, a little checkers, wreckers action possibly. But I think McNasty driving inside the top 10 this week, like late into the race, is a given. It's just, will he keep it in one piece, I think.
Yeah, and it's tough with the narrow corners. I mean, you mentioned it with Chastain, pretty good at road courses. You can't feel comfortable in any corner. You have one little mistake, you're into the tire barrier. Even though it's not going to ruin your day, it's going to knock you back and make your job a hell of a lot harder.
Agreed. I'd like to throw out one more outright that I have on the card other than SVG. And just to clarify, I did go 2 units on SVG. So I do like him a lot. He's been good to me this year. When you bet him, he has not failed you more times than not on road courses. I'm going with a little nibble, a half a unit on Christopher Bell, 6.5-1. I also like him over at Caesars in the backdoor speakeasy, under 7.5 finishing position. I believe I got that at minus 110. So I thought that was a really good value as well. And why I like Chris Bell this week is it seemed like last year he had a top 2 car in this race. He was really dominating this, led 47.4% of the laps, swept the stages, 2nd in driver rating, 113.5. Really liked what he put together, and also had a top 2 car last week. The week before, fastest car at Loudon. Gateway had the fastest car last month, finished 7th in that race before blowing up, and had one of the better cars at Iowa as well. So take out, kind of the freak accident last week, and he's been on an absolute fucking run. How could you not like Christopher Bell? If you don't want to get invested in the outright Elliott, are you least interested in the under 7.5 finishing position for our friend Chris Bell?
I do like that because I've got his top 5 bet also here at plus 105 over on Bet Rivers. Even if you can get it even money, I think he's going to be quick enough. It's just going to be so competitive at the front of the field. I don't know that he's going to be able to win it, but I do like him for a top 5. I bet his top 10 is pretty damn juicy, but that could also be worth a sniff. Or maybe even a top 3 or 5 rather than drinking all that juice for the top 10.
Yeah, if I was going to play the top 10, maybe like a cross-sport parlay or something, maybe get some F1 in there, maybe get some baseball bets or something going on over the weekend. So don't mind that shout out at all. In the placement props, I do want to shout out, I think, some crazy lines. Again, I don't know what Bet Rivers was doing, but they finally woke the fuck up and like gave us some really interesting shit. Yep. SVG top Chevy plus 325 over there. I win a unit on that. SVG top 3 plus 190 at Bet Rivers. I win a unit on that. And really the market for top 3s, I'm seeing like plus 160, plus 170. So I like almost getting a 2-to-1 there. And then also top Chevy, most places he's like 2.5 to 1. So to get all the way above a 3-to-1 felt really nice there. And like, what other Chevys do you really expect that could beat him? Like to me, I'm more scared of the Toyotas. Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, those are probably the only 2 Chevys like you're really concerned about, I'd say.
Yeah, I would say so. And I would say Chase more than I would say Larson. His top 5 is at plus 145 over on Bet Rivers. 3rd here last year. He was 4th at Sonoma earlier. Last year on the road courses had a trio of top 5s. He may not be the undisputed king anymore, but I do think Chase Elliott can still mix it up at the front.
Yeah, I don't mind Chase at all. I've been pretty heavily invested in him at road courses so far this season, so I can't blame you for getting down with him. I will say, like, I think him and Justin Hailie were the beneficiaries last year of some weird timing with when that announcement came out for the lights, but still, yeah, don't mind that at all. Anything else you have for replacement props? For me, it's just that McNasty top 10, the Chris Bell under 7.5, and then a couple SVG ladders.
Yeah, like I alluded to, the placement props are where I'm finding some value this week. I'll throw out a few that I have here. The other top 5, Justin Hailie is 14-to-1 BetMGM for a top 5. Dare I say, can he do it again? Still consistently running well. He was going to be top 10 again last week. He was 10th with 2 to go before the Cindric spin. It is a Ware car. Ware does not have the same pedigree that Kaulig had on road courses. Maybe his top 10 at plus 360 on FanDuel is better for you. But I mean, not only did he ended up there because of circumstance, but he ran well with Chase and with SVG to the point where, he had to make them work to get by him.
Yeah.
It wasn't just he's up here on complete bullshit strategy and falters at the back as soon as somebody gets to him. He knows how to drive. If the Ware car can hold up underneath him, I think it's at the very least a top 10 competitive run for him.
It was really impressive last week seeing what Hailie was able to do, kind of battle back from that early penalty that he deserved, go down pit road, nearly was down 2 laps, was able to get back past the leaders, and then was able to end up getting a wave around. So really like what we saw from Justin Hailie, like what we've seen all year. I was riding out that 14-to-1 top 10. That was another heartbreaker last week, but yeah, he did look good, man. I remember some friends and family texting me like, "Who's this Hailie guy? I've never even heard of him." I said, "Oh, just wait." And I think this car is overall better, like probably better than what he was in last year as well. Like Kaulig obviously has fast cars at road courses. We've seen that, but I like what Rick Ware's at least been putting out there for him so far. So yeah, if it can hold up, I don't see a reason to say don't bet that. I feel like you and I are just trading weeks on Hailie. You go, I go. Because we have to at this point.
I've been high on Hailie at least the last couple of weeks. When I figured it out, he had the issue at Sonoma, but otherwise has been in contention.
He was good at Sonoma too. He was arguably a top 12 car at Sonoma at one point.
Yep. So the car has run better. He's been driving well. At the odds that they're giving us, I feel like at least the Hailie top 10 is worth a sprinkle every single week until either he starts to run like shit or the books figure it out and stop throwing out such high numbers. Because obviously, plus 360 over on FanDuel, somewhere in that range, is not quite as long as it would have been a couple weeks ago. They're maybe starting to figure it out, but it's still a damn good number.
Yeah, that was the only thing I was like a little bummed out is like I kind of called it last week. I said they're catching on, and
Yeah.
plus
But
360 is a tough number for me to pay for a guy like that, I guess.
I think part of it is just because they looked at the results. They saw he was second here last year. I think
Yeah,
next week,
yeah.
when we go out to Pocono, he'll be more in that 6-1, 7-1, 8-1 range, and I'll be fucking slamming it again for some more potential coin because he's come so close. Last week, 10th when the wreck comes, 5th at the rain delay at New Hampshire, and then running top 10 when he gets hit by Chastain and vaults to the back. He's going to get that finish, and I'm going to make up my losses from taking those bets.
Yeah, that's a brother I want to talk to at Pocono next week, man. I think he's just been on a heater. It's been fun to chat about, fun to kind of cover and follow his journey, and excited to see what's next for him here.
No doubt about it. And if you want some long shot top 10s, I'll just toss these out here too. I got to keep on the Todd Gilliland train as well. He was 10th at Sonoma, 4th at the Indy Road course in 22 was his best finish. A couple other top 11 finishes. Was an unspectacular, 17th or something here. But same with Hailie, is if they're going to keep running up there and they're going to keep giving long odds, take a sprinkle. Just throw a little quarter of a unit sprinkle on him. And if you're on the Zane Smith hype train, he's the same number, 5.5 to 1. Obviously, second last week. His other best finishes of the year, Coda and Sonoma, both had top 20s. Obviously, that's not a top 10, but if you throw in some more chaos, maybe that 71 gets a little hot streak going.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I just found one literally while just kind of scanning the top 10 odds here.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to get invested, but it was an outlier. I'd love to hear what the chat and the IBT family have to think about it. Josh Berry, 11 to 1 for a top 10. I think that's quite a misprice when he's like 5 to 1, 6 to 1 other places. And think about it, like Austin Hill's best price is 8 to 1, Eric Jones 6 to 1. Barry, I know he's not a road course guy in the slightest, but 11 to 1, I don't know. That was a little interesting. I'm not down on that. I'm not betting that, but I'm just we're kind of playing that exercise game for long shot top 10s. I think Barry might be worth a sniff. And yeah, shout out Zane Smith, dude.
Yeah, 11 to 1, I might be interested. 6 or 7 to 1, I'm not touching Barry, but at that long of odds, just because the cars run well enough and I think he can keep his stuff together. He hasn't been absurdly terrible on road courses.
Yeah, and in the past too, I always tend to like guys as well who maybe they're not road course ringers, maybe they're not known to go left and right very well, but are good on short tracks. Those are kind of the drivers and the cars that perform well at these road course type events as well. Let's go ahead. Anything else for placement props?
Let's roll the matchups.
All right. Anything I have a matchup for Xfinity, nothing here for Cup. I will say there is a Tyler Reddick over Ty Gibbs minus 160 at DraftKings. And if that 30% boost comes down on Sunday and it's not too far juiced, I might try to get invested there. I just can't pay minus 160, minus 165 for a guy who has a lot of volatility there.
Yeah, that's a little too risky, especially because Ty Gibbs is not terrible here. He was 9th here last year. But yeah, if you get a 33% boost on it, then maybe I'd think about it if it's not overly juiced.
Yeah. What do you like for matchups here in the Cup Series? What are you seeing? Because lack of variety. I was thinking we could get some cool shit and not too much that I really liked.
No, not so far. The only matchup I have is more fading a guy than it is being confident in a guy. Dare I say we fade AJ Allmendinger this week? I got a matchup Austin Cindric plus 135. I know we've had a lot of Cindric shit talk as of late. He was 6th here last year. AJ was 17th. Plus, you think about SVGs in the main 16 car, whether it's Trackhouse or not, still going to have some Collin Cruz, the Collin crew chief. Is AJ going to be getting some scraps in that 13 car? He was, I think, better than SVG at Coda, or at least he ran better, but still wasn't quite as competitive as we've seen from AJ when he was in that 13. So I'm also fading him in his positional prop. I'm saying over 8.5 at minus 105.
I think those are both really like not bad bets, honestly, Elliot, to fade AJ a little bit here. We know he's going to be in the mix. We know he's going to be competitive, probably a top 10 car, but at the same time, he does feel like he's kind of lost a little bit of an edge here in the Cup Series. Yeah. Also, he's in that third colleague car. Exactly. That was I was really hoping to see SVG get that number 16 car this week rather than the 13. Yeah, and in that third car. So I don't mind that at all. I also saw that placement prop and did consider that. So don't mind the fade here at all on Dinger. And Austin Cindric was actually one of the guys who lost out last year on some of that late race, calling the race due to the weather or the light. So Austin Cindric did run pretty good here last year. That was one thing I noted watching back last year.
Yeah, I mean, AJ's got the talent. It's just you got to fade him just because of equipment.
Yep. Yep. Agreed. Anything else here in matchups that you wanted to point out?
No, I think you're right. I think the market was quite uninteresting this week, but I'll take the opportunity to fade AJ just a little bit.
Yeah. Specials. I got one. I went a full unit on it. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling frisky. It's a long fucking shot. Probably shouldn't have thrown a unit on it, but listen, SVG to win the Cup Series and Xfinity Series. I already had a bet on this, and then Caesars made one that was like the non-organic one, so I feel less good about it that they're also offering it now.
Yeah.
Make it yourself somewhere else. Make it at Caesars for the pre-made one, but plus 1640, 16 to 1 odds. If he goes out there, he wins the Xfinity Series race, you're having a 16 to 1 ticket for SVG in your back pocket for Sunday, where he won at in his first race, man. So really liking it. And we'll talk about Xfinity, but I think you have to be on him somehow in Xfinity. He's 2 to 1 at Bet Rivers. The guy's dominated road courses in this series. He was in Austin Hill being a peckerhead away from winning COTA, one Portland, one Sonoma. So fire me up a little SVG.
Yeah, I certainly don't hate that. And that's probably the best way to get down on SVG this week. I know that when we get to Xfinity, I'm going to talk about some, down card, down ballot type deals for Xfinity. But that doesn't mean I don't think SVG is going to beat the shit out of everybody, just like he did at Portland and Sonoma. And in the Cup Series, having him at 16 to 1, I like that hell of a lot better than 5.5 to 1.
He told CBS Sports Stephen Toronto this week that place, Chicago, is going to be special, I guess, for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I mean, I put this line in my column. I said, you can't ignore the Kiwi that changed his life and put the whole series on notice last year.
And you think like since Sonoma, all he's had to probably been doing is just running sim on Chicago. Like you'd have to think, right? Like he knows he has no real shot at winning these ovals. So like you think he's in the fucking lab studying it up and chopping it up late into the night, man. So all on board SV Jesus, man. If we go down, we go down together.
Yeah, the only thing that obviously there's a lot of good road course drivers in this field. I think SVG is better than a lot of them in the Xfinity Series. The only thing that's going to stop him is Austin Hill running him straight into the tire barrier.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I did think about Austin Hill. Stay the fuck away from him. That's all I have to say.
SVG's really hoping that Hill runs in 15th all day so he won't have to run into him.
Yeah. Anything else for specials before we jump totally off the dock and go into Xfinity?
Weirdly, not a lot of good specials for me this week. The only one that I'll throw out there just for conversation's sake almost, under 2.5 Fords in the top 10 is a plus 130. I feel like none of the Ford guys are really going to be in contention to win this race. They're all relatively mid on the road courses. There were 4 in the top 10 here last year, but they were 6th, 7th, 8th, and 10th. So on the back end, where a couple of things, or maybe even finishing out the scheduled distance, could have resulted in only 2 of the Blue Ovals in the top 10. Like I said, I don't know. I'm not down on it yet, but I've been all right with some of these plus minus in the manufacturers lately. I'm kind of fading Ford this weekend.
Yeah, you said 2.5 was the line?
Under 2.5 Fords in the top 10 at plus 130. Yes.
Yeah, dude. I would think that would be minus money because realistically, you have McNasty and you have Buescher, right? Like those are the two guys that you would think would be in there.
Buescher might even be a little bit of a stretch. He was that 10th place car last year, I think.
And then you have Hailie. Like Haley's probably the third guy you're scared of, and then maybe a Logano or a Cindric. Like so, if you're gonna get beat, you're probably gonna get beat by guys who are in the latter half of the top 10, in my opinion. Maybe McNasty's like I could see him being 5th or a 4th, but aside from that, so I don't mind that call at all, especially at the plus money. I think that is some good value there, Elliot. Good shout out, man.
Much appreciated. But yeah, specials wise, nothing else is all that interesting to me this week.
Okay, let's talk Xfinity Series. As I alluded to, I am down on SVG for the parlay. Also, the 2 to 1. I went 3 units on it, man. I'm just, SVG's just take the wheel, baby. Take the fucking wheel and guide us. Like Larson's the only guy I think who could beat him. I really do.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to get down on that nice little parlay Cup and Xfinity for SVG because I don't have any coin on him so far, and I'd like to. But because you have SVG as such a heavy favorite, you have Larson in the race, it creates some down book value. I know I was fading AJ Allmendinger in Cup. I kind of like his Xfinity numbers. He's 7 to 1 to win, 2 to 1 for a top 3, and I thought I had a top 5. Oh yeah, minus 115 for a top 5. All pretty good numbers and would be kind of unheard of for AJ Allmendinger at a road course in years past. this may be his opportunity to kind of try to show SVG who's boss before SVG goes out and kicks ass on Sunday, or at least kicks Allmendinger's ass theoretically. 7-1 to win. And if you like an Xfinity regular, I know nobody's going to talk about the Xfinity regulars this week. Sam Mayer has had some bright spots on road courses. 14-1 for that win. 275 for a top 3 plus 150 for a top 5. All numbers I enjoy for that one car too.
Yes, Sammy Ballgame's been very, very good this season. We know the pedigree this guy has on the road courses, won a couple late last season. So I don't mind the shout out there at all. Any love for Cole Custer? I saw he had some good numbers out there. I didn't bet it specifically because I don't think Cole Custer can win right now. Like he leads laps all the time, but yeah, he was even plus money for a top 5, which I was kind of surprised at. Didn't bet it. But I thought Custer was kind of another one of those regulars that I was somewhat interested. But perhaps I'm kind of waiting to see the full spread. If ESPN or DraftKings kind of maybe gives it a 2-1, I might bite down.
Yeah, I mean, presuming that they run the full distance, I don't think Custer is going to be able to stay near the front. And I know you had a few matchups for Xfinity, yeah. Before I throw out some more that's on here.
Yeah. My favorite bet of the week, honestly, is in the Xfinity series, and it is a matchup. We're going right back to the well. We're fading Sammy Smith against John Hunter Nemechek. This is minus 120 for the Nemechek side over at Caesars. Thank you so much for making this a matchup. Thank you so much for continuing to let us fade Sammy Smith in matchups. I don't get why we continue to be able to do this, but we are. This feels like another punch down to me. Like these guys aren't in the same class, in my opinion. We faded him against Quapple last week, where Quapple was 4-0 against him heading into it. JHN is 7-2 this week in his 9 Xfinity Series starts this season against Sammy Smith. JHN finished 3rd at COTA in Xfinity earlier this season. And in this race, JHN might have been the only guy who could have gave Cole Custer a run for his money had that race played out to the full distance. Number 1 in green flag speed. Number 2 in late in a run and speed by segment. Ran 3 of the fastest laps. And also, let's not forget, this guy has momentum right now. I think, really, he's probably looking at himself and be like, damn, I just wish I would have run Xfinity again for another full year, because he looks like he's having fun down there, man. He's wheeling, he's dealing, he's coming out of victory lane. Smith did finish 6th last year, but I just trust the momentum and the Joe Gibbs racing car of John Hunter Nemechek way more than Sammy Smith. Minus 120 felt like a fucking bargain, Elliot.
Yeah, of the Cup guys and even of some of the Xfinity guys, I don't love JHN, but against Sammy Smith, I love some JHN too.
Okay. All right. What else did you like for the bottom series here?
I'll throw out a couple matchups. If you are in the minority here and you want to fade SVG, they put Larson up against him, and Larson is plus 120. So getting plus money on Larson if you got faith in that 17.
Gross.
Now that it doesn't have a Boris Setter and Alex Bowman in it, and actually has a pretty damn good driver in it, especially at road courses. If you want to fade SVG, there's some plus money on Larson, which you can't often say in a matchup. And if you want to fade Ty Gibbs and stick on that Allmendinger train, he's also plus 120 for AJ to beat Ty. That's over there on Caesars. And my favorite positional prop for Xfinity, guy named Austin Green. He drives the 32 for Jordan Anderson Racing, a part-time guy. Yep. He was 7th at COTA. He was 4th at Sonoma, and he's 8.5 to 1 for a top 5. And this is the first guy that came to my mind when I texted you. I said, hey, where's the Xfinity positional props? What the fuck's going on? I wanted to know what that Austin Green number was. 8.5 to 1. I like it a lot.
8.5 to 1 is very interesting. Did he run this race last year? Do you know?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't check on that. I was more focused on this year's results. Jordan Anderson Racing, another one of those teams that's kind of on the up and up, starting to really get competitive sometimes now just off the super speedways. And this kid has really shown me that he can run up in contention for a top 5. So that makes 8.5 to 1 a hell of a number.
I like the cut of his jib, man. I like the cut of this kid's fucking jib. So, yeah, I actually might have to do a little sprinkle on that now you said that, because I remember the last 2 times we've been on Xfinity road courses, I've been like, who the fuck is this guy? I need to circle him and remember the name. So thank you, Elliot, for bringing that back up, man. I appreciate it.
That might be, if you're going to put a bet of the week for me, if we want to keep it in Xfinity, we'll go with that.
Well, Austin Green action. Kush said he said this like 20 minutes ago, but McNasty, yeah, I fucking love McNasty, baby. We're going back to the well, absolutely. All right, man. What do you say? Should we go ahead and round some things out with some DFS tiers on the evening?
I've got one more bet real quick. We're going to open up the Formula One can of worms. We're going to go Lando Norris to win the British GP at plus 260. I don't know if you saw what happened last week, but we have got some Formula One beef right now. Max Verstappen is no longer the best car by 15 seconds every week. Lando Norris at the end of that race, getting up, trying to pass him, trying to get by him, less than 10 laps to go. Max with his traditional blocking moves, so I've learned, ends up taking them both out. End up with a 10-second time penalty for taking him out. They both would have ended up in a position where third place George Russell could have caught them anyway.
Yeah.
Lando ended up with a time penalty because of going off course. Max probably would have as well. But regardless, both of these guys now, we've got legitimate F1 competition for the first time in like a year and a half, if not longer. Lando Norris, the Englishman, going back home to Silverstone, plus 260 for F1 when you've really normally only got one guy who can win. Max is still minus money, plus 260 for Lando to surpass the villain of sorts, Max Verstappen, and get his second victory of his career. You got to go for it.
Well, it shows you what rivalries can kind of do for a sport, man. And I know there's been a lot of talk in the NASCAR side of things this week between Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin. Is it a rivalry? Is it not? And these guys like Lando and Max, they seem like they're good pals. You know what I mean? Like they were good friends at one point.
They're still playing that, but Lando said after the race, he's like, well, Max did a stupid thing here. If he doesn't apologize to me, I'm going to be really pissed. And we don't know what happened there. So we'll have to come find out when they get over to the UK.
And what was that? The first race for George Russell or that entire garage in a long time?
First win for Mercedes and for George Russell since 2022.
Yeah. Wow.
So sometimes it helps to be there and, you can back into one, but to be the best of the rest can really help you out sometimes.
That's like an Austin Cindric win rather than a Joey Logano.
That's a classic Alex Bowman move, is to just be there when shit hits the fan and take the win. You still have to be good enough to do that.
I know we've exhausted this conversation, but that's exactly why I was so pissed that Joey Logano won last week, because at least Austin Cindric was running like top 3 most of the day. You know what I mean? And fucking Logano. Hey, I will say though, I have the over 1.5 wins for Logano this season, so at least that got me a little bit closer, feeling a little bit better on that future there.
Shame they don't count the All-Star race in those numbers. You would be having fun.
I know, that's a good point. All right, man, let's go ahead. Enough F1 fuckery. Let's get to the little tire tiers here.
Let's roll. So we got a whole host of driver changes and additional entries this week. Obviously, SVG is in the 16, Allmendinger in the Cog 13, Austin Hill, for some reason, is in 33. Watch out for him, too. It could be a case if Austin Hill is bad enough to get lapped.
No, keep him the fuck away from SVG, please.
Maybe. Can you imagine? Can we set up a parlay? Can we set up a parlay where Austin Hill wrecks SVG in both races at like 200-1? I would take that.
Stop it. I would be upset. He'd be getting some hate mail from me.
We've also got Joey Hand in the stage 60 car for RFK, Josh Bilicki, MBM, Carl Long running it out there again. Good on him.
Man, I was hoping Josh Bilicki could get in a decent car and maybe we could throw out a little floater top 10 for him, honestly, because Bilicki's actually a pretty good road course racer. We saw that earlier this year in the Portland race where he was a top 5 car for a lot of that race. So I was liking Bilicki a little bit, but man, I can't deal with this team.
Right. Yeah. If they finish the race, that'll be surprising. I'm trying to see if Bilicki is in Xfinity. I don't know that he is this week, which kind of stinks. I think he'd be pretty well set if he could get in a decent car there, but I don't see him and I'm not going to scroll through.
Yeah.
I'm up close to figure it out. But anyway, SVG's got to be the top here, right?
Yeah. Spry's saying too, he's terrified of paying the 10K flat for him. Dude, I know it's tough, but I don't need to go on the rant. We just talked about SVG at absolute ad nauseum. But, dude, this guy is so talented. We can't fade him. Could he do some stuff? If you're playing in a fan tracks where you're counting stage points, maybe he doesn't get the points you want. But, aside from that, dude, I don't see a reason not to go for SVG, man. I really don't. At 10K, I was expecting him to be the highest price and getting a little bit of leverage there, at least with, Larson and Bell being a little bit higher up, but it's probably going to be kind of chalky too at the same time. I think everyone's be playing SVG.
Yeah, I think there are 2 things that can fuck SVG. It's Austin Hill and it's colleague fuckery.
Yeah. Yep. Yep, I agree with you there. Who do you think is 2 and 3 here? Because I have yep, okay.
Probably Bell number 2, yeah. And then would
Yep.
you go Larson number 3?
I'd go Reddick.
Reddick
Actually.
number 3, yeah.
Larson and me at 10-5 is too expensive this week. I won't be really playing a lot of Larson. I'm not fading him per se because he was like really fast late in the run at this track last year. It was really good in the total speed rankings as well, coming in second just behind SVG. I just can't. I don't know. This just feels a little bit outside of his element. I'm going to shelve Larson for once this week.
Do you think he's still worthy of an A, or you want to put him in the beginning of the Bs?
I'll leave that one up to you. I'd say I could go either way there.
Yeah, this might be a pretty short A tier.
I'm okay with it because
yeah.
honestly, those are my 3 favorite drivers this week from a betting and DFS perspective.
Any argument for Chase in the A, or you think he belongs right behind Larson in the Bs?
Yeah, 9-6. Oh man, 9-6 is tough. Like again, Chase did have that really great finish here last year. However, how organic was it? 14th in the total speed rankings.
Yeah.
I put him right behind Larson, if that's okay with you, or in front of Larson. If you want to do in front of him, I'm okay with it as well, because I see myself playing more Chase just because he's 9-6 rather than 10-5.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and throw him up there.
Okay. Who else for B are you thinking then?
I mean, we've got the 5 consensus favorites out of the way here. Do we want to put Dinger in the Bs? Do we think that he'll be good enough to run that well?
If you want to put him in the Bs, you can. I'd prefer the end of the Bs. I like McDowell over him for sure. I think McDowell's just been more consistent. Both those guys are checkers and wreckers a little bit though, so it's something to kind of keep in mind. But I like both those guys. Byron hasn't been terrible. I would maybe consider Byron high C, low B, just kind of what we've seen from it on the road courses this season. And actually, like not terrible here last year either. I felt like he was decent at times last year. So don't mind Byron. Any thoughts on him or any of the other Hendrick Motorsports guys?
I mean, I would say if you want to wrap up the Hendrick scheme, we can put Bowman there in the C's. He's been sneakily good at road courses. Chris Buescher probably in the B's also. I don't know if you want to put him ahead of Dinger and Byron or not.
Yeah.
He's got the road course pedigree for sure. I'm tempted to look at more Gibbs guys, but I don't know where you put Gibbs or Hamlin or Truex, whether they're B's or C's or maybe even a D for a guy like MTJ. I don't know.
Man, MTJ is getting a lot of love right now out there, especially by the books. I was surprised to see them kind of hanging him where they were, and 9-2 feels like a lot for MTJ. I would much rather play Gibbs at 8-4. I'd much rather play Hamlin at 8,000. So I'm kind of dead on with you there. I think they're all C's to me. Truex at the end for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'll probably slip Ty ahead of the 48 as well.
I mean, just like I said, man, Truex just hasn't had really the runs lately. I know you were kind of high on him once again last week. I think you've bet on him 1,000 times this year. But I don't know, man. I don't know how far his head's in the game, especially for a place like Chicago Street. Like, do you think he really gives a fuck about Chicago Street? Like, this is probably one of the races he's like, well, I'm probably not winning that. I don't know how much effort I'm going to put into prepping that. So, yeah.
It could be a cool one, though, to win, though. So I feel like Truex still could be able to pull sneaky ones out, but it's going to be less likely at Chicago. Probably to round out the C's, probably Hailie and maybe Chastain.
Hailie, Chastain, Suarez to me. I like Suarez. Yeah. Suarez was actually running pretty good. Didn't get a good finish here last year, but was 17th in the total speed rankings, was running top 10 a lot of the day as well. So, and also Suarez double duty for him this week.
That's true. He's in, I think, that DGM car that I know Ross has run a couple times. I believe so. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah,
I'd say to start the D's, we probably got to go all Penske, probably 2-12-22.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's totally fair. Joey Logano going to be double dutying this week, so that kind of gives him an edge at 7,600.
Yep.
I like the Penske guys this week. Cindric 7,500, Ryan Blaney 7,800 over on DraftKings, and I think why I like the Penske cars is because, like, hey, you don't get to run these guys out too much in the 7K range. So to get him down here, Blaney's had speed really wherever we've gone. He's probably my favorite, I would say, out of all of them, Elliot, just because even at Sonoma, where he's not necessarily an absolute like lights out killer, he was a top 10 car there a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So yeah, no problem with the Penske boys there. We talked about Trackhouse. They got a deep notebook. How do we
Yeah.
feel about Mr. Bubba Wallace this week? Any interest in him, or do you think he's like just because of the card? Like they have a good notebook too from Reddick last year.
Yeah, and he's really improved on road courses too. 2 years ago, he was a complete afterthought. He even went down to run Xfinity at Coda because he was so terrible at road courses. It hasn't been spectacular. He's not really in contention for wins, but he's not a complete garbage play here. I think he's worthy of the D.
Yeah, agreed with you there. I just want to throw him out there because I think he's being disrespected too. Josh Berry, 6,000. I
Yeah.
know the road course pedigree isn't here. He's at least ran this in Xfinity. Didn't do necessarily very well, and definitely not high up on the road course total speed rankings at all. This is just about momentum to me. Guy just got a good announcement this week too, so I think vibes are high over there.
I don't know. It feels like a lot to crack open the Fs, but it might almost be time to crack open the Fs. And can I suggest Austin Dillon to go the first in the Fs here? I'm looking at the total speed rankings on road courses the last 2 years. Austin Dillon is in 16th. He's got 11th at Coda, 13th to 14th, 9th best total speed ranking at Sonoma.
Austin Dillon also 13th in the total speed ranking, specifically in this race last season. Also the fastest 4-segment speed. There was a minute where Austin Dillon was up there battling with Hailie and the gang, and he ended up hitting the tire barrier and couldn't get out.
Oh my God,
too.
that's right. I totally forgot about that because not only were we thinking Hailie, we were thinking
honestly, I don't know if I want, dude, like he did finish 36, but I wouldn't honestly not argue for a D for Austin Dillon specifically. Like you're paying a little bit more for him, I think, than we have in the past. But actually, no, you're not. 5,400. And I was looking Austin Cindric's price. So yeah, I like Austin Dillon actually this week. Good placement there.
Yeah, there we go. Glad you're back on board that 3 car.
What about Rowdy? We should probably have Rowdy maybe in the D's. Just specifically, he's been really good at road courses, 7,700 for him. So you're getting him a discount. When you look at the 2024 speed rankings on road courses, Kyle Busch is in 9th. When you look at Chicago Street as well, didn't have a terrible run here last year. So end up finishing in 5th for Kyle Busch. The speed ranking wasn't there, but I think we're low on Rowdy, probably rightfully so, but I don't know.
Well, it's hard not to be low on RCR right now because they've just not only have they run poorly, they've also been snake bit even when they're running well.
Yeah. How about that fuckus last week? Him getting his spot back too, and then
they were going to end up. I think Rowdy was 3rd or 4th, and Austin Dillon was 12th or 13th. Without all the chaos, we would have had a completely different conversation about RCR. That I feel like people aren't realizing that. Sure, Kyle Busch ran bad the first half of the race. Austin Dillon was Austin Dillon. They both were going to be in the top 15 had that race finished at its scheduled time.
Yep, agreed with you there. Todd Gilliland, I think, cracks open the Fs for me if he doesn't belong in Ds. 5th fastest late in a run last year at this track. And as you noted, kind of a better road course guy than he gets credit for.
Yeah, Todd Gilliland, sneaky good at some of these road courses. Do we rank Joey Hand in the 60? I know he's one of those, he's an old school road course ringer in that he's here just to run the fucking road courses and doesn't really bother with any other NASCAR stuff. In this car, Cam Waters ran into trouble at Sonoma. Reagan ran right in the 500 when it's been out there. I don't think it's a terrible car, chassis wise and under the hood wise.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. It's just, to me, for Joey Hand, it's the price a little bit. 6,900 when Gilly's 68, Hailie 67.
Wow.
It's just high. So I think we can rank him, but I think he needs to be towards the end of our rankings.
I think so. Any SHR love from you?
Okay. Well, I don't think we can rank Gragson. I mean, remember how bad he was here last year? I know it's completely different team, but he caused 8 cautions last year. So I don't think I can have Gragson on the board. Right. I don't have a problem with Briscoe or freaking Ryan Preece pulling out a top 5 out of his ass finally as well. But I'm not necessarily, if I'm going to play one, it's going to be Briscoe. 8th in green flag speed, 7th fastest late in a run, 16th in the total speed rankings. Briscoe belongs ranked. I would also probably throw Austin Hill on the board. He was a good car last year in the Xfinity race. He's ran here, and John Hunter Nemechek as well ran here good in the Xfinity race. So doesn't always translate, but I think they're at least interesting.
Yeah, and I think I'll do the unthinkable from a few weeks ago. I think Zane Smith is worthy of an F. Better runs on road courses, probably
Yep.
still a cheap price. And, obviously last week was nuts, but they'll be feeling good after managing to pull out a runner-up finish.
Yep, I agree with you there. I'd also like to shout out Kaz Gralla, another guy who's kind of sneaky good on some road courses as well. Even like came into Sonoma, and he's not going to win you the week, but 32 points there, starts in 36, finishes in 23rd. Like that's kind of what you want out of Kaz. Hocevar maybe on the board too, just out of respect.
Yeah, but is he that good of a road course guy? I think he's toward the bottom of the speed rankings. Or no, he's kind of mid tier. All right, I'll throw him up there.
Yeah, he hasn't been like terrible.
Yeah,
Hasn't raced here though. That's kind of the only thing. Like I do give guys who've raced here at least once in some type of series a little bit of an edge.
yeah, for sure. Because it's just so different. It's so tough to get used to.
Anyone else we can rank here, like Brad Keselowski? Any love for him? Kind of tough.
I don't
Kind
know.
of tough. 7,000 for Brad's kind of a tough price to swallow. Like I would rather just pay for a Hailie or a Gilly or even maybe a Hand. I think too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable without touching Keselowski. And yeah, there's not much of an argument I can make for most of these guys. I know Stenhouse in the mid 20s in the speed rankings. I don't know that he's worth throwing up there.
Yeah, he would be the only other one I think I would even consider honestly playing at this point.
Yeah, no, because Corey LaJoie in the 7 car, traditionally not good anywhere lately, but definitely not the road courses. We talked about Gregson, Harrison Burton. We finally can start putting the 21 back in the rankings next year. I'm really excited.
Yeah.
Harrison Burton gonna have to drop down there. Daniel Hemrick, did he run here last year? I don't.
He did in Xfinity. I can pull up that finish for you.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at next gen total speed rankings here. Hemrick's all the way at the bottom.
I thought he was kind of deep. He was 7th in Xfinity last year.
But
So
I don't weigh that Xfinity race at all because they got in like 30 laps.
what about the qualifying though?
He
He qualified 9th, moved up 2 positions.
He can run 2 good laps around the place. Okay.
Give Hemi 5,100. Give Hemi some love. Give me a Hemi here, baby. Come on, Elliot. Have a heart. Have a fucking heart.
I don't know. You really want to crowd that F tier that much more?
All I'm saying is we're trying to buddy up some PR representatives in the next 7 days ahead of colleague racing's one that we're trying to butter up as well and try to get
we will never see a colleague car the 101 on our board again. I feel like this is at least not till next year.
Yeah, 101.
Or if SVG wins, the next road course is they're not running Indy this year. We got to wait all the way to the Glen for another road course. I guess so.
Yeah, playoffs, baby.
Entered, but
enjoy it. Bet SVG. Play SVG when you can, folks. You're not going to get to for another like 2.5 months. The Olympics will be here at come and gone by that point. Football season's going to be back. So let's fucking go. Colleague, baby. Don't let us down, please.
Yeah, I don't hate colleague as a bookend here. Eric Jones, just not a great road course guy, and Legacy's been terrible. And then we already talked about the rest of them. So, yeah, I mean, this is it's a light A tier, but I think, like you said, I think these are the 3 that are going to run the best, look the best, and ideally be up there fighting at the end like we had at Nashville. Our top 3 were contending for the win before we had chaos and 8,000 overtimes and the craziest fuel strategy you've ever seen.
I would be very surprised if the top 3 guys, one of them did not win this race. I think maybe a Larson or a McNasty or even a Chase Elliott could pull this out. But I really think it's like the who's who this weekend. And hey, we're going to see some crazy shit. Keep that in mind. Try to stack some differential points because we even saw Justin Hailie broke the slate here last year. I don't have his points total on hand, but I remember he started like almost dead last, ended up finishing runner up. So if you had Hailie in your lineup last year, you were setting pretty good. So any final thoughts here for Chicago from you, Elliot?
No, I like that point you just made, though, that if you got a guy who ends up starting in the back, doesn't necessarily look that great in practice qualifying, if you still kind of like him in the race, could definitely be worth throwing in a lineup or 2 because you can get a gigantic freaking war chest of DFS.
Yes, agreed. And I do want to shout the IBT family one more time, riding with us here on a Wednesday night, giving you guys the night off on the 4th of July. But we'll be back next week on Thursday. And just a reminder, we're trying to do 1,200 subscribers. If we got there by Pocono, we would do a giveaway. We're not going to get there. If you can get us to 1,100 subscribers by next weekend, by the end of next weekend, we'll do a giveaway sometime in the following weeks. How about that, Elliot?
Yeah, and if you're going to be at Pocono, we'll have a couple of trinkets. We really didn't do much of that at Dover, but Pocono's got the gigantic infield camping, a lot more room there, not only for us to maneuver, but for you to maneuver there at the track. So hopefully we can, meet up with some of the fans. Yeah, we got some little trinkets we can give away, whether it's for content or for, hey, thanks for supporting. Here's this little NASCAR Authentics car off the shelf or something like that. It'll be exciting. I mean, Pocono was really the time of our life last year. Had a great time, threw out some good content, and we're really hoping to do the same this year.
I'm fucking psyched, man. And if you guys are going to be at Pocono in the area that weekend, please hit us up. Like we got together with one of our IBT family members, Bob, out at Dover, one of the highlights of the weekend. And then last year, I remember just kind of walking around and someone said, Seth Woolcock from Between Media. They reckon, oh shit, really? So we love interaction with the fans, man. We appreciate all support so much, man. It really goes a long way here. Thank you, Dee earlier in the show for the fucking awesome huge super chat as well. That's fucking awesome. That'll go right towards our next giveaway, man.
Yeah, it's gonna go toward the giveaway. Going to go toward the weekend at Pocono. I know I'm not too difficult to miss, but I will be rocking the IBT hat all weekend, and generally we'll probably have some IBT swag on us, so we should be easy enough to spot, even if we can't pre-organize something.
Luckily, I have a good tan ripping this year. Did not last year. Got absolutely baked. So
yeah, we both got hella burnt last year. I'm bringing that 70 SPF sunscreen for us this time around.
Yeah, always give it to Elliot to always look out for the boys and our skin. We appreciate it. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Elliot, bring us home, man.
Yeah, it's been a great show. Thanks again for tuning in off schedule on a Wednesday. We are psyched to be at Pocono next weekend. I'll actually be on the show instead of driving during the show time. And it's going to be a great one. It's going to be a great one at the Chicago Street Course. And hopefully it's going to be a great Independence Day. Happy 4th of July, everybody. Yeah, enjoy the weekend at Chicago. Thanks for rolling on down the back road. And we will see you from the Tricky Triangle next week. Let's go.